And just like that, it's time for our weekly roundup of all the things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Number 1, California Senator Diane Feinstein, dead at 90. Well, team, California Senator Diane Feinstein passed away this week at age 90. Feinstein was the first woman to become mayor of San Francisco and was technically the first woman to represent California in the United States Senate. I mean, it's a funny story. Even though Barbara Boxer won her seat in the same election, Feinstein was sworn in just like a few minutes before Boxer. And while Feinstein won her seat as San Francisco mayor after Harvey Milk was murdered, we need to be careful to interrogate narratives that soften the blow of the legacy that she left. For more on that legacy, you can check out this excellent article in 48 Hills. We love a first, as you know, and we celebrate a first. But what does it mean to be a first if you use it to do the same old, same old? Here's the other thing. Her death has Lady thinking about what we do with power. Now, there's a lot in the news about Congress and especially what's going on in the Senate that we're going to get to in a minute, but she really did hold on to that seat, despite being the richest woman in Congress until her last breath. Now, we didn't get a successor in the sense that she trained somebody else or even a few somebodies to, get a shot at helping to lead the country, which is kind of wild to me. Toward the end, she was not her best self. And that's not speaking ill of the dead, y'all. That's just telling the fucking truth. But she's not the only one. What do we make of that practice of staying until the bitter end and then actually not passing the baton like so many people preach about? And staying there allowed her to keep other women from advancing. I mean, just ask Barbara Lee. We're going to come right back onto that, though, because I got more to say about that. Okay. Other things Lady ain't going to do this week is pit Black people against immigrants like immigrants ain't Black people too. Hello, somebody? Now, this has really been sitting on my heart the last couple of weeks because I've been seeing anti-immigrant hysteria being whipped up. Not just from white people, but from Black people, talking like white people, as if white people don't be talking about us the same way that you be talking about them. Okay, let's give some context here before I go the fuck off. Folk are wilding right now, talking about the migrant crisis, where thousands of migrants are showing up in cities across the country, overwhelming local infrastructure. Cities like New York, Chicago, Phoenix, Philly, you name it. And then you have these political stunts where the really racist racists, like Governor Ron DeSantis, who ain't gonna make it as president, child, or Governor Greg Abbott, those kind of racists, are literally kidnapping people, literally putting people on planes and buses under false pretenses and shipping them off to places like Martha's Vineyard and Washington, D.C., to so-called liberal cities to highlight, well, I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to highlight, except that they're assholes. So we have an actual crisis, and then we have a manufactured crisis, and they're colliding. Well, it didn't help that New York Mayor Eric Adams missed an opportunity to actually have a political career by playing right into that, saying that it was going to destroy New York City, which was not only just untrue, but it was also dumb and spoken like someone who don't know that literally New York literally epitomizes a place where people can migrate to and make it. You know, that thing that's inscribed under the Statue of Liberty, which is where? New York. That says, give me your tired, you're hungry, your huddled masses yearning to be free. Idiot. Okay, so let's keep going. We clearly have a public education crisis in this country. So there's layers and layers to this, y'all. And truly, if it could just be solved by sending people back to where they came from, it would have been solved already. No, seriously, you ever think about that? But here's the truth, and it's the honest to God truth. There would be no economy without immigration. And that's the reason ain't nobody locking up all immigrants or whatever, because as much complaining as these weirdos do, they never actually acknowledge that there is no way to have an economy in America without immigration, legal or illegal. So stop the bullshit already. Our economy here in the United States plays a role in not just attracting immigration, but driving it. But you don't want to get up off YouTube long enough to actually get some clarity about why this is happening. Okay. But even worse, some of y'all are out here talking the same shit, and yo asses is immigrants too. all the black folk that be like, I'm Jamaican or whatever. So what do you think that actually means, bro? So just Jamaican immigration, but not other immigration? I mean, what are you talking about? My people. I give more room for us than some of these other clowns because I get it. We all struggling and everybody want to know why they got shit and I ain't got shit. I get it. But here's what's real. I need you to focus. You're not about to black business your way out of immigration. You're not about to black dollar your way out of this. And let me tell you why. It's all a shared pot. The way you would need to not just consume, but produce and distribute, because that's literally what an economy is. Let me just ask you, actually, before I get into this, let me just ask you, how do you plan to produce, distribute, and consume without relying on nobody else that ain't black by your shallow ass standards? Let me see the proposal. And remember, you got to provide for at least 40.1 million people. And that's just non-Latino black people, which leads me to my other point. How are you going to be pro-black and anti-immigrant when there are black immigrants? Like, seriously, what are we even fucking talking about? I'm pressed about this shit, my G. Like, we have black people everywhere, like all over the world, like all throughout Latin America, all throughout the Caribbean. Shall I keep going? Because literally black people are everywhere. I mean, are you anti-Haitian immigrants? Are you anti-African immigrants? Because, I'm just asking for a friend, because those are also the folks that are in these shelters and shit. So this is just some weird shit. And I get it that what you're actually saying is, why are we suffering? Well, let me ask you this. Let's start with affordable housing, just for shits and giggles. Let's say you want to know why there isn't enough affordable housing for black people. You might catch yourself watching the news and saying, well, how come immigrants are getting housing and we not? Well, that's a silly question because it's not true. Immigrants aren't getting more affordable housing than black people are. You can't actually find that anywhere. It's not true. Now, the people in power that keep that affordable housing availability real low and them dollars flowing to affordable housing real small, well, they do that because affordable housing don't make their developer friends any money. So fight developers, not immigrants. And consider that you might actually get more people behind you from every place where people need affordable housing instead of doing that age-old crabs in a bucket bullshit. Now, a mentor of mine used to say to me, everybody talks about crabs in a bucket, but nobody talks about the fact that the bucket is not the crab's natural habitat. I need y'all to sit with that for a minute. The bucket is not the crab's natural habitat. Look at what this country does to us. It's ugly shit. What's wrong with this country isn't immigrants, it's greed. It's greed. And that's free game for you. So lesson of the day, don't get caught up in white people's games. That's for them and that's between them. And hating on immigrants is white people's business, not ours. We deserve a different game. And really and truly, we ain't got to fight each other for crumbs when we can have the whole fucking pie. Marinate on that for a minute. Man, y'all sound real wild out here talking like Ron DeSantis, but you black. That shit is wild though. Woo. Anyway. Other things Lady ain't gonna do this week. Governor Gavin Newsom was a savage this week, and not in the best of ways. So I needed to take my time with this one because I gotta say I get it and all, but y'all had some real interesting takes on the news hits this week with respect to Governor Gavin Newsom. So let's start with the news first, which is that Governor Gavin Newsom was a savage this week. And usually I say this in the best of ways, like Beyonce and Meg Thee Stallion type of savage, but this time, I'm also using it the other way, which is to say like a ruthless, heartless way too. And yes, we already know that the white people done called us savages back in the day and actually probably yesterday and maybe even 5 minutes ago. But again, we're not playing white people's games on today. So please take me at my word about what I mean or don't take me at all. You dig? Okay. So 2 things happened in the great state of California this week. Number 1, Governor Newsom vetoed a bill that would have given domestic workers in the state OSHA protections, safety and health protections, which right now they are exempted from. Yeah, he vetoed a similar piece of legislation in 2020 as he argued that private homes cannot be treated in the exact same manner as a traditional workplace or a work site from a regulatory standpoint. All right. So what do you mean by that? For many women, bro, especially women of color and Black women, homes are our workplaces. Yeah. I mean, we are the majority of people who clean homes, who take care of y'all babies, who provide in-home care services, all the things that it takes for this country to function. So that was a whack-ass savage move to deny Black and brown women not once, but twice protections on the job. But it was a nice move for their wealthy employers. Yeah. Speaking of catering to the wealthy, we gonna get into this conversation about what in the fuck happened with the California Senate seat that was recently vacated due to the death of Senator Diane Feinstein. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I'm only going to share some of them. Governor Newsom, who has done some good stuff that I agree with, so don't be out here talking about you bashing Governor Newsom. No, I'm just telling the fucking truth. He did some whack shit this week to keep a specific Black woman out of the United States Senate. Now, look, I love me some Laphonsa, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, okay? She is a solid choice, and she has a very promising career in politics should she choose it. You ain't finna get no, and I mean no hateration from me with respect to Laphonsa, so let me be loud and clear about that. And not in the, I'm going to be gracious in the streets, but a hater behind doors, because some of y'all on that whack-ass shit too, and it stinks. But let's put that aside for a minute, because she gonna get her own section where I'm about to love up on her ass. So let's go back to the governor. Governor Newsom essentially tried to knock Barbara Lee out the Senate race. That's a fact. First, he refused to ask Senator Feinstein to step down from her seat, even though she very, very, very clearly could not and was not performing the duties of her office. That's a fact. He let her languish in that seat, allowed her staff to act as her proxy for a long-ass time, so much time, in fact, that there was story after story after story written about her incompetencies in her role. He then, after she finally announced that she wouldn't run again, but she also wasn't going to retire, opined that he would only appoint a caretaker for the role, not anybody who was running for the office. He didn't have the nerve to do that back in 2020 when Senator Kamala Harris became vice president, and then he appointed Alex Padilla over what would have been the obvious choice, which was Barbara Lee. That was some weird shit then, but this decision in this year, at this time in politics, is even fucking weirder. Sir, why wouldn't you want your appointment to be able to win again? That don't even make no sense. Do you not see we are in a fight for our lives, sir? But then, as he was appointing Laphonsa to the seat, once again skipping over the congresswoman from his state with seniority, he said that he was not going to prevent them from running in the upcoming election, of which the primary is just a few short months away, which can only mean one thing. Governor Newsom got a personal beef with Congresswoman Lee. Perhaps it's because she clocked correctly that his commitment to fill the seat with a Black woman didn't mean a caretaker Black woman. It meant actually appointing someone you want to stay there because you value having a Black woman in that seat. But I get it, Governor. I mean, it was 2020 and being anti-racist was in vogue then. I'm placing this at the governor's feet because that's where it belongs. And this ain't me talking shit, for real. It's just keeping it a buck. Here's what I really want to say here, and I'm really keeping it 100. I also get that there are valid reasons why he might not have wanted to appoint her from a political standpoint. Now, I love me some Congresswoman Lee, for real, and all y'all know this. I really just wish that the governor had been clear about his position about this Black woman and not created what could have been a real mess. Hell, he could have asked the Congresswoman to serve and then make way for new leadership after a full term. It's a tricky situation. Here we are talking about a Congress that's aging and what that means for the country. And so I get it. Trust me. But if that was part of the governor's consideration, why didn't he apply it to the white woman who literally died of old age in her seat? I'm unclear. This is why it's not far-fetched to talk about this move as not smelling good. What the governor should have said was, I'm in my feelings because she called me a racist and I don't like that. So tough shit, deal with it. That's politics. That's what he should have said. But instead, he pulled a jack move and basically tried to take her out over hurt feelings. And I guess that's politics or whatever, but it stank. I'm also going to say this. Some of y'all tried to put it on Laphonsa and side talk shit about corporate ties and her saying yes when others said no. Look, y'all, I don't know. I'm not on that tip. I think people have the right to be ambitious. This sits at the feet of the governor and the governor only. After all, he's the one positioning to run for president in a few years. I mean, we're all basically moves on that chessboard if we're just going to keep it 100. And that is also politics. So I'm thinking we should have the Congresswoman on to talk about her viewpoint on this, but I just gave you mine. Well, most of it. Stay tuned. Well, here's what we want more of this week. California Governor Gavin Newsom appoints Laphonsa Butler to the United States Senate. Now, speaking of politics, I actually big smiled when I got the news that Laphonsa Butler was selected to serve. Now, I had the pleasure and opportunity to interview Laphonsa on stage at Lesbians Who Tech last year in Frisco. And that episode is a part of our podcast, so you can go back and listen to it. And of course, she is legendary in the world of organized labor. Laphonsa is the first Black lesbian to serve in the United States Congress and is now the only Black woman and the only Black lesbian in the United States Senate. And yeah, if it couldn't be our sister Barbara, Laphonsa is an excellent choice. And if she decides to run, she could win. She can raise money, she can move people, and she is wicked smart and actually would give these senators a run for their money, honey. I'm with the shit. It actually takes a lot to say yes as a Black lesbian to serve in the United States Senate at this point in history, at this time, with these weirdos. And baby, it's not the money. Trust me, you can make more money for less stress elsewhere. You better believe that. So congratulations, dear sister. We are counting on you to do us proud. Other things Lady loves this week, my friends, is that Kevin McCarthy fucked around and found out. Now, honey, if we gonna end this roundup this week on this note, I just have to say this. Kevin McCarthy said, I wish a motherfucker would, and then a motherfucker did. 216 motherfuckers to be exact. Now, I was watching this dude this week on the television, and he was talking big shit with his chest out like the white Suge Knight. But no, friends, he is no Suge Knight. That Count Dracula motherfucker, Matt Gaetz, took his ass out. Now, my mom used to say, don't write checks your ass can't cash. And I realized on this week exactly what she meant. This man made a deal with some devils and then thought to himself that he was smarter than the devils. But oh no, sir, this was never, ever going to work out in your favor. And let me tell you why. The one thing I could say you might have had going for you is that you talked the shit, but you wasn't about that shit. But these people are actually about that shit. And they showed you exactly that by booting your ass out because they could. In other words, fuck around, you gon' find out. Lord.